Welcome to The Blue Dot, Northern Kentucky's premier political podcast, brought to you by the Kenton County Democratic Executive Committee. Welcome back to The Blue Dot podcast, where we continue our salute to the military by highlighting veterans' voices and their concerns in a difficult political climate. I'm Natalie McDonald.
And I'm Brian Kale. Today we have a very special guest, Lisa Parker, the voice behind Mamaw's Porch and Politics. Lisa isn't just a storyteller. She's a veteran with a remarkable military career, and her family is deeply rooted in the military as well.
Yeah, that's right, Brian. Aside from her admirable military background and family, Mamaw Parker has gained popularity from her Porch and Politics talks, where she uses her platform to share the perspective of working in rural class communities with wit, grit, and a dash of saltiness to break down the kitchen table topics in an accessible way for her audience. You'll see.
Yeah,
You'll see.
That's right. Her tagline is "Stay salty and use your outdoor voice." I love that. And that kind of approach is right up my alley. I can't wait to talk to her in just a bit because it's been an exciting week in the political arena. But before we get to the chaos in the news cycle, we have a lot of Kentucky wins to recap.
Yeah, every week that we get together and do a podcast, I feel like, boy, that was a crazy week. It gets worse every time, I think.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I know.
But we do have some wins for Kentucky. We had Governor Beshear secured emergency funding for food banks across the state, and he also organized the statewide food drive, which was led by Democratic leaders in each Kentucky county. And I saw with my own eyes Boone, Campbell, and Kenton really going above and beyond and bringing in an incredible amount of food to local pantries right here in Northern Kentucky. So it was really great to see all of these communities coming together to do something positive.
Yeah, we were talking about the food banks and the importance of that in our last pod. And even since the shutdowns ended and some of the money started flowing, it's still taken some time to get there. But not only did those local efforts help our communities immediately, the governor announced on November 15th that all SNAP benefits in Kentucky were fully processed and restored. That's really fast. The bad news is, however, our friends, the Kentucky Republicans, are letting health care tax credits expire, and we are anticipating that over 100,000 Kentuckians are going to see a spike in their premiums.
Yeah, we just had open enrollment at my company, and my benefits package increased to $1,600 for the upcoming year.
Whoa.
And I know that's relatively low compared to what a lot of people are going to face next year.
Right. And many of those with ACA plans may no longer be able to afford the coverage. And if these people have to look elsewhere for insurance, as our guest Mamaw reminds her viewers that without the ACA, protection against pre-existing conditions go away as well. And that's yet another risk to Americans being able to obtain and afford health care.
Yeah, it's just staggering to think about. And even with the government shutdown over and Governor Beshear being able to reinstate SNAP benefits as we look into 2026, the changes to coming SNAP benefits alone due to the big ugly bill will deal about a $100 million hit to our state budget. And Trump's tariffs and trade wars are causing an additional $305 million shortfall to the state. So we're not out of it. It's just we have a long road ahead of us for sure.
Yeah, it's really astonishing how the Republicans have completely abandoned 98% of the country who aren't billionaires or tech bros. It seems they are more concerned with defending the destruction of the White House to make room for a $300 million gold-plated ballroom, or worse, defending the cover-up of the largest and most high-profile child sex trafficking ring in history.
Yeah, Brian, it's not even that they're defending the cover-up. It's that they're moving the goalposts and almost trying to normalize this whole Epstein thing. It's just crazy. I don't know if you saw Megyn Kelly out there trying to, defend Epstein a little bit. I watched the whole clip, and it still didn't make sense.
Yeah, I did watch the Megyn Kelly clip where she splits hairs on Epstein's, shall we say, proclivities. Basically, she describes him as more of an ephebophile versus pedophile, although she doesn't actually use that word. Ephebophilia is an attraction to teenage girls, ages 15 to 19, and not girls younger than that. So what? This makes it okay? No, this does not make it okay. But in fairness, Kelly does repeatedly say that she's not defending Epstein or making excuses for him, but even taking the pains to try to, split these hairs and make his depravity less disgusting, or even indirectly suggest, by even having the conversation that what he was doing was actually not illegal. I mean, it all boils down to kowtowing to Trump and protecting dear leader.
And how did we get here? How did these people allow their politics to bend their moral compass so drastically that they find ways to not only defend the cover up, but to give it grace? I don't know how they allow themselves to do this.
Well, there is some good news, however, it seems to be catching up with the Republicans, right? We're seeing cracks in the MAGA foundation. Marjorie Taylor Greene, for example, seems to have hit her tipping point and coming out against Trump and specifically Epstein and, everything that was happening there.
Yeah, she even came out and apologized for contributing to the toxic political culture, as she called it.
Right.
And maybe that's because she wants to run for president, or she can just see the writing on the wall. I'm sure she wants to get reelected. But I have to give her credit where credit's due, even if that is potentially self-serving.
Yeah, and she was coming out with, I read a couple of tweets or X posts or whatever, where now she is, being attacked
Yeah.
with, the pizza deliveries and the swatting and all of the threats and the memes against her that non-MAGA politicians have been suffering from for a long time. So now the shoe's on the other foot. How's it feel, MTG? And not only is the MAGA base showing instability, Trump is losing GOP support, and independents have fled as far and as fast as they can run. And this is being reflected in the fact that his job satisfaction in polling is in the 30% range in several polls.
Yeah, and I just saw, speaking of the swatting incidents, I just saw that a Republican congressperson from Indiana, I guess Trump must have put something out on X. I didn't have
Right.
time to look at it yet, but then he received some threats as well. So
Yeah, I
they're
think
now
that's the
attacking his own.
right. I think he's the head of the Republicans in the legislature, and he said no to the gerrymandering effort. So
That's what the problem was.
that opened him up. There you go. Yeah.
It's crazy. And on the Democratic side, we do have some wins with them as well. It seems that Democrats have finally found their footing, as we saw in elections earlier this month. They've taken back the narrative. So their voice and platform, which of course is infinitely better than the Republicans, is being heard and now resonating with average Americans as it should be.
Yeah, and not only that, the enthusiasm is high, and patriots all across the country, especially in Kentucky, are stepping up to run for office with the goal of implementing that platform.
I'm so excited for what's happening here in our own backyard on the candidate front. The Kenton Dems just had their November is Now rally and fundraiser on November 13th, and it was standing room only crowd.
Yeah, it was great.
There, yeah, in the Legion and Latonia, and I have to admit, I saw a ton of new faces, and the energy was just electric. So I think people are fired up.
Yeah, there were 11 candidates who spoke, many of whom are veterans, just at this single event. And there are more out there who haven't announced yet. And I also attended, as I told you before, when we met that night, Campbell County a week earlier, their candidate recruitment meeting. And they had about 50 people show up, which was shocking to them. It was standing room only, same thing. So all of this is just incredible to see. And I really think this is a change year, not only for the country, but for Kentucky. I'm really excited to see how many of these seats we can flip.
Or maybe we should make a wager.
Okay,
We'll just
let's
pick
talk
the
about the
number.
terms first.
We'll put a poll out there and see how many seats we're gonna flip as we get closer.
Yeah,
But
that'd be good.
I agree with you. Gone are kind of these days of people saying we can't win, because we can and we will, because we have top-notch candidates running, as evidenced from the rally we had and from what you saw in Campbell County. And
Yeah.
I also think gone are the days of Democrats in northern Kentucky and beyond hiding in the shadows. I think people are pumped up. They've had enough, and Democrats are loud and proud and visible. And I think this is just the beginning.
Yeah. And speaking of loud, proud, and visible, let's bring in today's guest. As we mentioned at the top of the show, Mamaw Lisa Parker is a veteran from Appalachia who has found a way to connect with working in rural communities all across the country using her outside voice. And she really hits home with her down-to-earth perspective that she serves up with a little bit of saltiness.
Yep.
Lisa, welcome to the Blue Dot. All right.
Well, thank y'all for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much. And I don't even know where to start with introducing you because you have such an amazing background. U.S. Army captain, police officer, entrepreneur, member of a very proud military family, and of course, the creator of Mamaw's Politics on the Porch, where you deliver your take on political views. So I'm just going to hand it over to you to tell us a little bit about your background and even the extraordinary military lineage that you have.
Well, my brother and I were raised by a single mother, uh, and she was very progressive, especially for her time. She was a social worker. She actually started out in the Army as a nurse in Korea. She was a social worker, later went on to be a missionary in Brazil. So we were kind of brought up in the heart of Appalachia with a very liberal, progressive mother. So that's kind of where my brother and I got it. Our military history goes back. My grandfather was in World War II. He was in the Army, Quartermaster Corps. My father-in-law was in World War II, and he was in the Army Air Corps. Then, let's see, he'll move forward a little bit. Then my uncle was in Vietnam twice. My husband was in Vietnam,
Wow.
turned 18 in Vietnam. And my
Wow.
brother was in the Army. I went into the Army Reserves. And then our son, Jonathan, went into the 82nd Airborne. Calvin pinned his jump wings on him, and he served in Iraq and Afghanistan. So I think I have a place where I can say what I damn well want, and I am totally against people that forget that they're supposed to support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
I could not agree with you more. It's just, it just blows my mind that people subscribe loyalty to an individual versus the Constitution, especially an individual, shall we say, rather questionable character. But
Oh, it's
well, we
not
really
questionable.
appreciate
There's no question about it. Come on,
unquestionably terrible.
let's not put lipstick on a pig.
Come on, you're with Mamaw. Quit beating around the bush, right?
The older we get, we have less time for nonsense.
That's for sure. That's for sure.
But yes, Amy McGrath and I had a long conversation about where did we get over not defending the Constitution.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, our goal is, and I know yours, you share it with us, is to get us back to that, and
Absolutely.
I think we're turning a corner. I feel like it. So we certainly appreciate the service of you and your family. And, this is, to me, this is what America is all about. Those who sacrifice to give us the life that we have today. And when you see somebody's trying to take it away from us, we need to fight. We need to fight to keep it. And I'd love to be a fly on the wall listening to your kitchen table.
It is not for the weak at heart. Yeah, to be a fly on the wall, you got to be pretty tough, not thin-skinned.
I'd love to be a fly on the wall wearing armor, listening to your kitchen table discussions, especially around Pete Hegseth and the constant disrespect the current administration has for members of the military, just what we were just talking about, from generals to new enlistees. It seems like he is just jealous and, quite frankly, just intimidated and doesn't know what to do.
Well, first of all, bless Petey Pie's heart. He is just so in over his head. He, did a lot of this, and he has nothing to back it up. He was mediocre at best. If you've been in the military 24 years and the highest you got was major, that was only because you were your buddy's drinking buddy, and that only gets you so far. He was that guy that every woman who ever has walked into a place that served alcohol gets cringy and wants to move away from. See, Natalie gets it. She knows that's him. That's that guy. And the fact that he can't even do pull-ups. I mean, doing them little sissy kicks, trying to do a pull-up, my God, I could do better than that. And I'm 68 years old with 2 artificial knees. I mean, really? And then he's telling these generals who have been in combat how they're supposed to behave and be warriors and tough. Oh, my God. Don't even get me started. And it's like when I was talking to Amy McGrath, and my God, you people have got to elect that woman.
Wonderful.
It's all this DEI nonsense. You can either land an F-18 Hornet on a postage stamp in the middle of the ocean, or you can't. I mean, there's no seconds about it. There's no guessing about it. You can either do it or you dunk it. So, yeah, Petey Pie has issues. He's got a lot of issues.
Well, I honestly now I stay away from the pull-up thing because I got like T-Rex arms. I can't. I mean, they're just so
But
weak.
you're
I've never
not
been
out.
able to do one.
You're not in front of all the generals that we have in the
No.
military saying how they need to be man and, be a warrior.
Right. That's exactly right. I'm not taking anybody else to task, so that's right.
I just want to talk a little bit about ICE and the fact they're deporting military veterans and foreign nationals who served in the military, served our country. And I don't know what your take is on that. And
well, I'll tell you a true story. I have a friend that lives out in California. She is Hispanic. Her family has owned property in California since it was part of the United States before it was a state. She's like 7th or 8th generation. She retired master sergeant from the Army and then went to work for the Defense Department. As she was leaving work one day this summer, she got detained by ICE and they wanted to see her ID. So she showed them her retiree ID and her ID from where she was working. That wasn't good enough because, you can be a foreign national and be in the military. So they detained her while she called her daughter to go to her apartment to get her birth certificate. That is absolutely outrageous. Those little whiny ass gravy seals who've had no training. We don't know who they are. They got to cover their little old faces out there detaining people that could whoop their butt all over the place, but refrained from doing so. And it used to be that we used the military as a pathway to citizenship. That was a common thing. I mean, they would come into this country, they would join the military, they would serve with great honor as a pathway to citizen. It kind of reminds me of what we did to our Japanese Americans during World War II. It's disgraceful. Absolutely disgraceful. And there's no honor amongst thieves. There's no honor amongst those ICE people. They took a decision. They made a decision to take that kind of work on. I don't care how badly you needed a job. There gets to be a moral factor in there. And they're doing that. And now they're stopping citizens. They've stopped Native Americans. Prove you're an American. They are trying to deport Puerto Ricans. For God's sakes, they're Americans. I have nothing good for them, and shame on every one of you that took a $50,000 bonus and took pay during the government shutdown, and you're going around terrorizing human beings. You're no better than the brown shirts of World War II, period.
That's exactly right. It's like the secret police. And
they are.
And I like your observation that a lot of them are former J6ers, probably Proud Boys in there.
Absolutely.
The 3%ers, some of these other guys that, got
that's
pardoned,
really why
and now they're working in ICE.
Well,
right, exactly.
And having been in law enforcement and the military, there's a lot of training that goes in, and there's a lot of de-escalation training. And then when you stop someone, you have to have probable cause, and you can't profile. I mean, there's a whole plethora of things they seemed exempt from. And even their takedown tactics, that's not a matter of training. They think they're in pro wrestling matches or something. They're going to grab the wrong.
Terrible.
And here's what my fear is. One of these days, they're going to grab the wrong person who's going to give them back more than what they got coming.
Yep.
Right.
And then that's going to be the tipping point. And that's my big fear. It's almost like they're trying. There was a gentleman just the other day, again, of Hispanic descent, who is a U.S. citizen. They pulled over twice in one day, broke out his window, wrestled him to the ground, tore his arm all up. And he's like, I'm a U.S. citizen. So what happened to this? We're only going to be deporting criminals.
And, to piggyback on that, one of my fears is that there's going to be someone running around there posing as an ICE agent who's not an ICE agent and grab somebody up and throw them in their truck.
Well, that's already happened.
Yep.
That's
good point.
Trying to watch the saltiness.
Well, while we're on a roll, and you grew up in Appalachia, so we want to ask about another veteran who claims to have grown up in Appalachia, our current Vice President, J.D. Vance.
You mean Jimmy Hamill?
Yeah.
Poor little Jimmy.
So tell us about how your two Appalachias are different.
Well, it started, he was on TV about his book. So I went out and grabbed Hillbilly Elegy, and by the time I got into about the 5th chapter, through the book, I was furious. He's a usurper. He has identity issues. Bless his heart. He just doesn't know who he is. Now, for people who are wondering, you ask about J.D. Vance. He was born a Bowman, and he was adopted a Hamill. Okay, that happens to kids. You don't have a choice. But now you tell me about a man who graduates high school as Jimmy Hamill, who goes through the Marine Corps as Jimmy Hamill. And if you go online, you can search Military Times. You can see the one article that he wrote about Humvees when he was in Kuwait, because he says he was deployed, but he only got to Kuwait, which is kind of a luxury place to be. So he wrote about Humvees. That was his job. But he did serve. Then he goes to Ohio State University and graduates as Jimmy Hamill. He goes to Yale Law School as Jimmy Hamill. And then suddenly he meets Peter Thiel and changes his name to J.D. Vance. So, my little spidey senses goes up. There's something somebody hadn't found there yet. And that little old boy, he just don't know who he wants to be. So let's get back to being an Appalachian. So first of all, I am suspicious of anyone who calls himself a hillbilly. I am from Appalachia. I am a proud daughter. One branch of my family has been in southeastern Ohio since the early 1700s. My grandma's people were from Flatwoods, Kentucky. So I do speak with some authority there. My grandmother has a PhD. I have a master's degree. I mean, we're not dumb. But there are issues with being brought up and choosing to remain in Appalachia. It's not that our children are dumber than anybody else's. They don't have the opportunities. We have 3 high schools that serve an entire county. The teachers do the best they can, but we do not have the opportunities that the big urban and suburban schools do. We just don't. We don't have the tax base. They don't have those opportunities. They don't have the connections to get into certain schools and to do what they need to do. So therefore, which was one of his things in Hillbilly Elegy, a lot of kids in Appalachia, in order to get to college and stuff, do join the military, as I did, to pay for it. So that's all good. But let me tell you something. Being brought up in Middletown, Ohio, when his stepdaddy, but he was adopted, so his daddy worked for General Motors, I believe. His mother was a nurse. Where I grew up, you were well off. That was living quite comfortable to be brought up there. Middletown, Ohio is no more part of Appalachia than Cleveland is. It just ain't happening. The fact that he spent 2 summers with his Mamaw in eastern Kentucky does not make you a hillbilly. It does not make you a son of Appalachia. It does not make you understanding. That means you had a loving Mamaw who took care of you while your mother was in rehab. His mother did not become a drug addict because of the Colombian cartel or the Mexicans. She stole it at the hospital she worked at, and that's why she lost her nursing license. So let's be real about it. So, he's got issues there. He just doesn't know who he is, and he keeps thinking, I'll reinvent myself. Right down to he was an anti-Trumper till it became beneficial to be a Trumper. Peter Thiel bought him his Senate seat. He bought him the vice presidency. And that's the man who's pulling the strings on our vice president. And those are all facts.
Yep.
What else you want to know?
Wrap her up. No, we got more. I mean, we love it.
Well, let's bring it back a little bit more grassroots.
Okay.
I know you said you had ties to Kentucky. We're Kentuckians here, but you were also the chair of your Democratic Party for I think 8 years.
Yes.
So what made you step away from that leadership position to take your voice to the porch? Because there's a lot of us on that grassroots level trying to find what works best for us and how do we get the message out there.
The county I live in is so ruby red. It shines in outer space. But we had this core group of Democrats. We were when I first took over, it was just a little prior to 2016, we couldn't get people to even put out yard signs. Mm-hmm. So to set an example, we put out yard signs in our yard. Somebody stole them. So my husband, he's a hoot now. He's the one you really ought to get on a show. He moved all the signs under our flag that's got the American flag and the American Airborne flag under it. And he put lights on them, and he hand wrote something on his sign, and people were honking. And I said, what did you put on that sign? I walked around. He wrote, warning, these signs are within range. So nobody ever stole our signs again. So much for being a snowflake. So we did that. We tried doing other things, thinking outside of the box. Hell, the state party didn't know what they were doing. And we've been going to farmers markets. We've been doing street markets, just everything that we could. And we were in a meeting talking about something, and somebody stood up. They wanted to set up at the farmers market, but they didn't want to use the word Democrat. And that's when I kind of blew a gasket, as I've kind of been known to do. I got a little, I'll be polite, ticked off. And I said, I've been doing this 8 years, and the woman that helps me with all of this with Mamaws, we went back clear to 2012, and we just kept hitting a ceiling of 3,500 voters. We got, even the state recognized, we got 80% the last of our voters to turn out to vote. I mean, we got them to the polls, but we still couldn't break through of all the voters that we had in this county. So I like to study. I'm a real nerd when it comes to military history. And one of the best things a strategist can do is really study and get into the mind of their opposition. I won't say enemy, I say opposition. And so one of the brilliant things that I will give MAGA World for doing, they're back starting in 2014, was developing online communities. And they started reaching people who maybe couldn't get out or were afraid to get out. And they started making people feel like they belonged to something and that their voice could be heard. And at the same time, I noticed that we had a dramatic drop off of, usually your seniors are your reliable voters. I mean, election day is an event. But there's been a significant drop off of voters after they get to be a certain age because you get disappeared. For some reason in our society, they determined that men and women of a certain age or with gray hair weren't of value anymore. So I thought, you know what? I can remember if my mamaw said we need to go out on the porch and talk, yeah, get you something to drink because you're going to be out there a while and you're going to hear things maybe you don't want to hear, but you needed to hear them. So I just really was frustrated that one day and went out on my porch and just put it out there. I didn't target anybody, never dreamt anybody would watch. A bunch of people started watching. So it started out as therapy for myself. And then I realized it was therapy for other people, especially in our age group. And I have a strange demographic. I have the 55 and over, primarily women, but I've got men on there too. And then under 30. So my only guess is there's people under 30 that their mamaw's never taken them out on the porch. So
I guess so.
So that's the demographic that I have and that I serve. But I just really wanted to start a community where people could use their voice again, because we're of the generation, the 60s were tumultuous and people forget that. The 60s were a rough time. But when we got through it, we'd ended the Vietnam War. The people that came home from Vietnam, we decided they needed to be treated better. Women got rights. We got Title IX. I mean, the doors opened up. That generation has been silenced? I don't think so. There's still a little fight and spark in there. So that's how I started Mamaw's Porch. And like I said, the older you get, the less time you have for BSing around and the filters go. And
that's right. We don't suffer any fools.
No. I used to just, oh my gosh, my mom, she'd say, I'm like, Mother. She goes, hey, I'm closer to God than you are. I'll say what I want. So there you go.
Yeah.
So that's how I got started.
I mean, you were talking about the 60s, and I remember the riots in LA and the riots across the country, and we're talking fires and, massive destruction. And then the 68 Democratic Convention in Chicago and, the riot police out and all that stuff. So then when, we talk about a couple of inflatable frogs in Portland being,
I know. God love him.
Like,
you got to watch him. They might have been poison dart frogs,
Yeah.
But
you're right. I was just going to say, I think you're right. And then that's kind of stirred that back up, that memory of what it felt like to be like really fighting the good fight. And we got kind of complacent for a while, I think.
Well,
and now we're back in it.
People make the strange assumption that veterans are conservative. And while there is that sect, I have typically found through talking at the VA that the sect that is never went through combat or didn't have close combat families. Most veterans that I know are progressive in that if you were an officer or a senior NCO, you wanted to take care of your soldiers and you realized how important food security was or housing was and those kind of things. Progressive somehow got an ugly name. It means to make progress, which is what we need to do. In 1968, my husband was in Vietnam and turned 18 years old. At 7, think of any 17-year-old you know.
Oh
And
my.
so, came back, and our son was the first to say it's because his dad had been through that he made sure he got the care that he needed. Because the Vietnam veterans came back and said, no, we're not going to put up with this anymore. We're going to make it better. And so they did. So we had all these different groups that made it better, and suddenly we're supposed to be silent. I was in the first group of women that were in the Army, not the Women's Army Corps, because of Title IX. I went in the year that they first allowed women into the military academies. And that's why Amy, I'm like, gosh, you guys got to do so many things we didn't get to do, but we cracked the door open.
Right.
And then they busted right through it. God love him. And then Petey Pie says you can't do that anymore. No, you ain't putting that genie back in the bottle, dude.
Yeah,
that's
ain't
right.
happening.
Yeah.
I mean, 20% of our military are women. Now, you're going to lose a fifth of your military? I don't think so.
Just clueless.
Well,
you talk a lot about.
It's because he had to drink. He's not drinking Kentucky bourbon. That's his problem.
I don't know what's that going to do. Give him
he's just drinking that
polite
old rock,
drunkenness.
That old rock gut stuff. Come on.
Yeah.
I have a confession for you. I don't drink bourbon, but I know I should give up my Kentucky card. But Brian carries the weight for me.
There you go.
Well, okay. We keep talking about bourbon. People must think that, I drink it 24/7. And I mean, I take an hour off once a week. So,
There you go. You just can't be from Kentucky and not partake a little bit of the spirit.
That's right. Sip a little
We'll
bit.
have to send you some. Tell us what your favorite bottle is. You can't get where you are. We'll get a bottle over to you if you like it.
Well, you talk a lot about grassroots organizing. I mean, talking about being the chair of the County Democratic Party and that grassroots effort and kind of where we're at. We got a lot of momentum. We got a lot of people that are showing up now at meetings that never showed up before. And you're on a mission to get good people to run for office so we can get people elected. You've created a policy platform that sets strategies for candidates to win. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Here we go.
We're getting the reference material out now.
They're getting the stuff out. I don't want to miss anything. So what I did was I thought, okay, I got a pretty good chunk of people. Now, I'm not in the 500,000 range like a lot of these influencers, I guess they're called. I'm not an influencer. I'm just a Mamaw. But amazingly, I had over 1,000 people respond, which is better than most pollsters ever get.
Heck yeah.
And so based on all those responses, the number one issue, surprisingly, was taking care of voting rights and what goes on within our government. So I follow that under my Constitution. I give my little Constitution classes on there. And so some of those things were to secure voting rights and make it a national thing so that each state can't add on more hurdles to voting accessibility. They wanted it to be a national holiday so that people could actually get out and vote. We need to include more people instead of exclude more people. Citizens United needs to be repealed. That can be done. Yeah. We need to make it a law because what the Supreme Court operated on, of course, I don't know how a corporation has its own heart and lungs, but that's a whole nother thing. But we need to have transparency in those PACs. So, yeah, you can go ahead and have a political action committee, but we want to know who is donating and how much.
Right.
So that's the key in there. And they want term limits. Now, congressmen are really ill-favored to, get out their job. But, if you go back to our founding fathers, they intended for government service to be a service, not to be a career. So 10 terms for a congressman and 4 terms for a senator, that gets them over 20 years, and then move on and be an elder statesman. Retirement's not a bad thing. There's other things you can do and explore. So that was the top thing, was voting rights. The next thing is they wanted bodily autonomy codified into the Constitution, and that's for anything. Your body is your business. So it's not a matter of just women or any of those. It's your body is your business. And I think that should cover both spectrums of the political spectrums. And then we want Social Security and Medicare reform in that they are safe, they are secured. You can't keep borrowing from the Social Security. We're not going broke with Social Security and Medicare. That's a big fallacy. It's that Congress has made a habit of borrowing and sticking their hand in the till, and they don't want to put it back. Well, we're not having the population that we used to have, but we're still solvent as long as they keep their mitts out of it. So if we save Social Security and Medicare and codify it, and even health care, because the easiest thing to do is simply have national health care. We're the only country that doesn't. So those were the three major winning issues that I think that, and you can fit the economy into any of those, but those are the winning issues. That's what both sides want to see. And I think that's why we're seeing a rise of independent candidates.
That's really interesting. The voting was like the top one, because that's like something that I really worry about. And, we definitely need to be
But we
focusing
don't
on
talk
for
about it.
2026. I know. Right.
Everybody worries about it, but nobody talks about it.
Well, I think we're talking, there's more talk about it now. And, I follow Mark Elias on Democracy Docket religiously. And, he drills into all the details, and you just find all these little fingers are putting into all these little ways to, flip something, or, I don't know.
If we don't get a handle on it in the next 5 years, we're going to be living in an oligarchy, period.
Yeah.
We've got 5 years.
Absolutely. And then we have the issue of gerrymandering as well. We talked to David Pepper about quite a few things, but he talked a lot about the gerrymandering and how, of course, Ohio, you guys have it pretty bad. Luckily, we have a Democratic governor. We were trying to kind of hold that stuff off a little bit, but now they're looking to do it in Indiana. So it's
but Indiana's holding the line. Even the Republicans say no. This is too much. This is a bridge too far. And I think the taco has lost so much cred here in the last 2 weeks that he doesn't have the pressure to put on him that he did before. But Ohio, unfortunately, is having a race with Abbott of Texas and DeSantis of Florida to see who's the most despicable. We already know Ohio is the top of the three most corrupt states with the Larry Householder thing. But, I thought better of DeWine, and I'm just so disappointed in that little hedgehog.
Yeah.
Hey, Taco ain't the only one that could call names.
I felt like DeWine has been playing nice in the sandbox with Governor Beshear, though. During COVID, I think they played, right? But then when he said, hey, let's bring in your National Guard, DeWine was like, sure, I have the National Guard. And that's when I was like, you were so
he's done that a
close.
lot. Well, he's done that a lot. Like during COVID, Ohio, because of Amy Acton, was the first to shut down and do the right things. And then when the pressure got on him, he just caved, and we got rid of Amy, and he wanted to do other things. And he always starts out like he's going to do the right thing, like not going to Cleveland to the RNC. And then he buckled, and, he just can't sustain taking a stand and doing the right thing. He starts out and then he can't. So that's cowardice.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I think I'm glad to see this pushback against the gerrymandering. I think Newsom's, very aggressive, and with the voters' will, getting those 5 seats and pushing back in that way. I think a lot of other states
and Kathy
are going, we really want to do
said
this.
If somebody else jumps, she will too. So I mean, it's a zero-sum game.
Right, exactly. And like you said, Trump's influence and his power is waning. I think this is such an opportunity for Republicans. I keep saying, and Natalie and I talk about this, it's like, if you're looking for a reason if you're a Republican, to get to split from Trump and start to get away and pry yourself away from this, what better way than Epstein and pedophilia? It's like, he was a great leader and I really liked his policy and, blah, 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 but I can't do the pedophilia thing, right? It gives you a clear break to get away from it. And I don't know. Maybe we'll see that.
We even have that conversation.
Yes, right.
No,
I cannot
I'm going to say yes because look at some of these other conversations we have. I don't know.
People knew it before, though, and this what gets it. They knew who he was. Maybe if they didn't get it in 2016, they knew who he was this time around, and they still voted for him. And so, to be honest, I think that 30%, no matter what happens, they will support him no matter what. And, I think history is going to go down the line and think very not fondly of them when we look back on it.
You've got to remember how history will judge you. And I look at, Trump's tried his usual barf of, it's a hoax and all this stuff. Listen, the King of England ousted his own brother, because he also has a copy. That's what everybody keeps forgetting. Mama, the Queen, she had a copy of that stuff. She'd already paid a chunk of money and put him over in the corner, but he was her son. But his brother, you're out of here. So it's not a hoax. That's what I keep telling people. Look what the King of England did. This is not a made-up Democratic hoax. There's something in those papers, and there's more than one copy because the King's got them.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. Well,
a little afraid to do this. We do a lightning round of questions.
this will be the best one we've ever had. I got a feeling this will be the best one ever.
Probably
and I
not.
wonder, would you be up for that? 5 lightning round rapid fire questions for you.
Go for it.
All right. We'll start out easy. I'm going to start out easy. Growing up, what was your favorite cartoon?
Cecil and Beanie.
Cecil and Beanie. Not familiar with
Remember
that, Brian?
Cecil?
Beanie.
Remember Cecil was the sea dragon? Look out, Beanie Boy. He had a pet
I do remember
sea
that,
dragon.
but my gosh, that's really taking me back.
All right, this one may be controversial. Maybe, I don't know. But what branch of the military has the best uniforms?
The Army, now that they went back to the pinks. Now,
Okay.
it used to,
I knew you were. I had a feeling you were going to say Army. If not,
it used
then...
to be the Marine Corps, and it pains me to say that.
All right.
But now that the Army's gone back to the pinks, the Army's got the best one.
Facts.
All right. Now, this one, I don't know about this one. You have to choose one of these two people to have on your porch to share a cup of coffee with, okay? We talked about both of them. You have to have either Pete Hegseth or JD Vance.
Petey Pie.
Really?
And I'm not sure I would have coffee with him. He might be wearing it. And I'll tell you why. Because poor little Jimmy Hamill doesn't know who he is yet, and I'm afraid I'd be punching down. Petey Pie's a drunk, and all bets are off.
There you go. On the flip side, you get to choose one person, living or dead, to share a cup of coffee with on your porch. Who would that be?
Just one more hour with my mother.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
See, now that hit home with me. That's the same. I hear you. Get me crying here. Okay. Lastly, if you had to pick a mascot for Mamaw's Porch, what would it be?
I already have one.
You do?
I have a Rottweiler, and her name is Khaleesi, Mother of Dragons. How fitting.
It has the Rottweiler
Oh my
beard.
gosh.
Maybe I've missed them in your videos.
No, I've never had her on there. She's in the room right now.
Well, one day you're going to have the Rottweiler and your husband
Can you hear her
on.
barking?
No,
Yeah.
I'm curious about
I
both
heard
now.
just, yeah.
Yes,
Khaleesi, I like that.
Khaleesi, Mother of Dragons. You must look up
Ooh.
Game of
That is
Thrones, and you know the...
Oh, yeah. I'm a big GOT fan for sure.
Yeah. So,
Was
yes,
there anything else you can add that you want to have our listeners know about you, or what you've been doing, or how to
You need
get
to
people
show
fired
up and vote. We're in the mess we're in today because
Yes.
10 million people sat it out. And that doesn't count the people that could vote that didn't register to vote. You need to get off your butts. You need to go vote. And I don't want to hear anybody say they're afraid. If you need somebody to hold your hand, take you to the polls, holler. But you need to go vote. Period. Vote.
Totally
100%.
agree. Best message ever.
And if you can't vote for a progressive and you can't vote for a woman or someone of color or whatever's going on in your little lizard brain, then stay home.
All right, you heard it here. We got our
Yes.
marching orders.
Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your salt with us. We super appreciate it.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Lisa. Mamaw, it was great. I'm going to continue watching your pod. They're so entertaining and informative.
Well,
Yes.
thank
I like
you
it.
very much. Send me a link to this one.
Sure
Oh,
will.
we will.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Yes,
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye. Well, that was a lot of fun for sure. Always spicy
A
coffee,
lot of
right?
fun. Yeah.
Well, anyway, as we like to close our podcast with a call to action. So today I invite you to connect locally. As we mentioned earlier, we have an amazing slate of candidates stepping up to run to make a difference. And we encourage you to make sure you're ready to vote, as Mamaw said. So we have a few steps for you to take. First off, register to vote if you haven't already. And if you need to change your party affiliation to Democrat to vote in the primaries, you need to do that before December 31st of this year. Secondly, check out the candidates who are running for office. We currently have a voter information tab on our webpage and feature all local candidates' links to their web pages. And we'll also be posting our candidate interviews there, so be sure to check that out. And lastly, if you want to run for office, do it. There are plenty of local races, from school board to city council to county commissioner, state house, and Senate races for you to get involved in. And the KDP and the Kenton County and our other counties have all of the resources and training you'll need to learn about running. So reach out to them to stand up and make a difference. Brian, how about you? What's your call to action this week?
Well, I'm still keeping an eye on the Indivisible and 5051 economic boycott and other activities. I'm on their newsletters, and they're still planning, organizing. Nothing really concrete there. But they're leveraging the momentum that we got from No Kings 2.0. And, we discussed in the last podcast. So keep an eye on that. It's a little quiet other than that right now. I think end of the year, holidays, et cetera. And we're winding up. And I think everybody's going to hit the ground running January for 2026 elections. And as you mentioned, Natalie, I think the key for Democrats right now is to study the upcoming races, listen to and get to know the candidates, and consider volunteering to help those you want to support through phone banking, door knocking, providing financial support, or any other ways that the candidate needs. Just basically proudly and loudly let people know what you stand for. Call out the corruption and cruelty of the current administration and the do-nothing Congress, and let everyone know that you oppose it. We stand for strong, competent, moral leadership and policy and programs that actually help people. That is the role of government. And Democrats are determined to restore that to the American people.
100%, Brian. And it's just, like you said, being loud and proud and visible. And you can also do some of that by joining the conversation at our Facebook and Instagram pages or at bluedotpodcast.com. And if you like listening to our podcast, consider donating to help fund it, which you can do by clicking on the donate link at bluedotpodcast.com. And until next time, everybody, stay curious, keep the facts in focus, and never, ever stop fighting for what matters. Peace out, everybody.